So this is the practical application post for my episode titled High Intensity Interval Training with Dr. Martin Gabala. In that episode, we were talking all about how to use high intensity interval training as a tool to improve your cardiorespiratory fitness. When we're talking about cardiorespiratory fitness, we're talking about improving the capacity and the efficiency of your lungs, your heart, your blood vessels, and your cells to be able to take in, transport, and use energy. So I'll give you a couple of examples so you can see what I mean. In regard to the lungs, right? So you have muscles that help you to breathe. You have your diaphragm that is helping you to breathe in. You have your abs that contract to help you to breathe out. As you do more cardiorespiratory type of training, you're improving your muscles to be able to take in more oxygen with each breath. You have your heart. The heart, you're trying to improve cardiac output. That includes how fast your heart beats and then the stroke volume. With each beat, boom, you're going to pump out more blood and you're going to be more efficient with that. So the heart starts to become actually more elastic. If it's more elastic, it can stretch more. If it stretches more liquid gets in. The more liquid that gets in, the more rebound that you have, the more you pump out with each beat. So think about it. If I'm breathing in and getting more oxygen in, then boom, each beat I'm pumping out more oxygen. The blood vessels, same thing, they become more elastic. Then at the cellular level, you have in the cell, there's the mitochondria, and that's like the factory, the powerhouse factory that's going to produce aerobic energy. And you're going to have more mitochondrial density, so it means you have more mitochondria in the cell. Then even the mitochondria itself is going to get bigger. So that whole system is getting more efficient. In the cell, if it's anaerobic, you are using the glycolytic system, so you're using glycogen that's stored, breaks down into glucose, but that's in the cytoplasm of the cell. So that also can become more efficient. One thing that happens with anaerobic, by the way, anaerobic energy, when you're making it, it pretty much is, the aerobic system is very slow, but it's more efficient, it makes a lot. And as you start to pick up the intensity, you need to make energy faster, so you transfer into being more glycolytic dominant, or into the glycolytic system and glycogen dominant. You're always going to use a little bit of both. And as you become more dominant in that realm, you're able to make energy faster, but the problem is that it's less efficient. And one thing that happens is there's a lot of waste, right? So think if you're making energy super fast, there's these byproducts that come. Think about just like in your house, the more you eat, the more garbage you make. It's kind of like that. So you have all these byproducts and you have to get rid of them faster. So one of the things that happens is you get better at buffering, right, some of these byproducts. But one example could be hydrogen, right? So your body makes more hydrogen as a byproduct. Now you have to get rid of that hydrogen. The way you get rid of it is it turns into carbon dioxide and water. So you start to breathe out more and you start to sweat more, but that's your way of getting rid of that hydrogen. But those systems become more efficient. So back to that piece about your abs and the muscles used to expel air become better when you're huffing and puffing and you're doing those things, right? So all of these systems, from your lungs to your heart to your blood vessels to this cell, all of them are increasing their capacity to do more work, and they're improving their efficiency to do more work with less effort. And that's pretty much the goal of what you're trying to do with this type of training. And we've learned that people who have better cardiorespiratory fitness have better lifespan and they have better health span. So the healthier people, there's all these benefits that come from having a healthy, good cardiorespiratory system. One of the big things that people look to is a VO2 max test nowadays. So we know that as you use these high intensity interval protocols, you're able to improve your VO2 max. So you can do, by the way, 2 different types of protocols. You can do more like moderate intensity long duration, steady state. You think like marathon running, you're running for a long time at the same pace for the most part. But then there's this high intensity interval training, which is what we're talking about in this episode, where you go really hard and then you let off a bit, and you go really hard and you let off a bit. And so both of them can improve your cardiorespiratory fitness. Both of them can improve your VO2 max. And I recommend, and we should be using a variety. We should be using some aerobic style, the moderate, steady state, long duration stuff, and we should be using some of these high intensity protocols as well. Variety is good. You don't want to overuse the same thing again and again, because that's usually how people get injured. So it's good to use both. But both of these are improving your VO2 max. What is that? That's the volume of oxygen that you can take in and utilize in pretty much like a given minute. So if someone's untrained, they might use something like 35 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight in a minute. So they're taking in and using 35 milliliters of oxygen, and someone trained could be using up to 80 or even more milliliters of oxygen in a minute. So if I can take in and use more oxygen than you in a given minute, I can stay aerobic for longer, right? So I don't have to go into that anaerobic system, but I'm becoming more efficient, and I'm able to do more work, right, than you. And then I'm also able to become more efficient, where the same amount of work is actually easier for me and it's harder for you. So that's what's happening with VO2 max. I'm trying to increase the capacity of how much oxygen taking in and utilizing. And when we do these high intensity interval protocols, we're improving our VO2 max. When you improve your VO2 max, you also improve your lifespan and your health span. So extremely important. So another little piece just to mention in there, you don't have to do this special VO2 max test in a lab. You can do something simple like a 1 mile run test, or in New York City public schools with kids, we do a pacer test, right? Or all these things are good. But let's just take that 1 mile run test. Go to the track, run a mile, see how fast you could do it. And then you can compare it to the norms. You could ask ChatGPT nowadays. ACM is a great organization. Just say, what does the ACSM recommend? How fast should a 35-year-old male run a 1 mile run test, for the average person? And then you can compare and see where you're at. And then what you do is you do some of these high intensity interval protocols for a little while, then 2 months, 3 months, whatever, you take the test again, you see if you got better. If your 1 mile run test improves, I can guarantee you that your VO2 max also improved. If your VO2 max improved, that also means that your health span and your lifespan is also going to improve. So, it doesn't have to be a fancy VO2 max test. It could be a simple 1 mile run test. So what are some of these protocols? In the episode, we talked about a couple different ones. The first one is the 4x4. So it's 4 sets of 4 minutes of work at about 80% of your heart rate max, and then you're recovering or doing light activity for about 2 to 3 minutes, right? So think about it, 4 minutes. Let's say I'm running on a track. We'll just use that for the example here. I run on the track for 4 minutes at 80% of my heart rate max, or it should be by the end of the 4 minutes, I should be exhausted and feel like I did not want to go another 20 seconds or so. All right, so I go the 4 minutes, and then for about 2 to 3 minutes, I do some a light jog or a walk or something like that, and then I go hard again for the 4 minutes, and then I do my 2 to 3 minutes recovery, 4 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes recovery, 4 minutes. So I do 4 times. That's the 4x4. Then there's the 10x1. So you have 10 sets of 1 minute bursts followed by 1 minute of light activity. So again, I'm back on the track. Now for 1 minute, obviously the intensity has to be higher than that 80% of the heart rate max. But for 1 minute, I'm going as hard as I can. By the time I get to the end of that minute, I should feel pretty burnt and like I didn't want to do anymore. It should be uncomfortable. I should be sucking wind a bit. And then for a minute, I'm going to walk or do my light activity. And then I go hard again for the minute, light for the minute, hard for the minute, light for the minute. I do that 10 times. There's also some good research to support a 5x1, which I just do it 5 times, right? Then another good one is the 3x20. So with that one, you're doing 3 20-second sprints, and you're going hard for those 20 seconds. So again, I'm on that track. I'm sprinting as hard as I can for 20 seconds. By the end of the 20 seconds, if I said, oh my God, if I did 5 more, that would have been too much, right? So I'm going pretty hard or close to failure. Doesn't have to be failure exactly. And then 2 minutes of light activity. 20-second sprint, 2 minutes of light, 20-second sprint. And that's your 3x20. So those are 3 different protocols you can use. What's great about them is they're time efficient. When you compare it to the moderate, long duration type of stuff, that could take up to an hour or whatever it is, 30 minutes, hour. This you could probably get done in 20 minutes or so, right? You could do the math on it. So it's a little bit more time efficient. But the other big piece is, again, about that component of variety. It's not that one is necessarily better than another. It's that you should be incorporating, when it comes to cardiorespiratory fitness, a variety of styles. So maybe seasonally I switch it up a bit. Sometimes I do my high-intensity interval training. Sometimes I do my moderate, long duration type of training, and I go back and forth. It helps me to avoid some overuse injuries. Not that I'm just always hammering away at the same thing, especially when it comes to your health. So, it's a great couple protocols to use. It's helping to improve that cardiorespiratory fitness, your lungs, your heart, your blood vessels, your cells, to be able to increase the capacity and the efficiency to, make and use energy inside of your body. Just today, I played a student for staff basketball game, and it was a blast. But think, it's a full court game of basketball. If I didn't have cardiorespiratory fitness, you're going to be pretty burnt. You don't get to enjoy that experience. But luckily, I have some pretty good cardiorespiratory fitness, and I'm able to run up and down that court. I can, enjoy some of the best things in life that other people might not be able to. And, we take for granted sometimes that, our health and the ability to do things. But by having good cardiorespiratory fitness, again, you can enjoy some of the best things in life, whether it's a sport or a game, whether it's playing with your kids, whether it's going on a hike, whether it's going for a bike ride, whether it's going for a walk in a city and exploring in a new city that you're in, whether it's dancing with friends, whether it's making love, whether it's whatever it is. When you have good cardiorespiratory fitness, when your lungs, heart, blood vessels, and cells can make energy or have a better capacity and more efficiency to make energy, you can enjoy some of the best things in life. And for me, that's probably the most important piece, in addition to all the other health benefits, whether it's mind, body, and spirit. So hopefully you got something from this episode, and hopefully you're inspired to get out there and do some high-intensity interval training. So check out the complete episode. There's a lot of great gems in there, and I hope to catch you all soon.